There it is. Grab your hats, grab your jackets, grab your scarves, grab whatever you can, because you made it. You made it through July, and now you've come to the weird part of the calendar to wish you think it's fall, but it's not quite fall. But you know it's in the air because football begins this week in earnest. Good morning, everybody. Paul Ihander with you. Max Goren is here as well. Not only is football starting up this week, but the drought that is the lack of hockey only continues for one more month. Yes, indeed. Next month, you can actually say that now. Next month, we have NHL hockey. It's amazing how this all works out, right? The calendar never lies. And by the way, I'm not lying to you when I say Alexander Nikishin is still not a Carolina Hurricane. I mean, he is, but he isn't. But he is. And the Stanley Cup is back in the United States, at least in North America. It was in Minnesota over the weekend. Jackson Blake managed to scrounge up a Carolina Hurricanes uniform. He was wearing, I think it's one of the ones that fans buy, but they don't ever play in. He was wearing like a black one with the Canes flag on it, which I don't remember them ever wearing in a game. Did they ever wear those in a game? It was fully black with like gold trim and the take warning flag on it. And he came off a bus in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and took some pictures with Dad and celebrated with whoever came out with him. Again, I don't know where he found that thing. I wonder if he's like, I don't have any gear here at the house. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just put the cup over my head and see what happens. So Cup's back in the States. Allegedly, it's going to be coming through Raleigh at some point later this month. Allegedly. Now, this is just stuff that I've been scraping off the internets and things that I've heard. So it may not be at all the places that they were when they first won the Cup, you know, all the places that the players like to eat and travel and some private neighborhoods and stuff. It might actually be out and about, but I can't confirm that. I'd love to confirm that. Maybe someone at the Canes would let me in on that secret. So Cup is back. Ceremony's next month, if you can believe that. And Alexander Nikishin is still a Carolina Hurricane. There are now rumors floating around that more people are kicking the tires on Nikishin. One of those teams happens to be the Los Angeles Kings. Another one of those teams that keeps creeping into the conversation is St. Louis and Toronto. Somehow Toronto has entered the chat because their main part of their defensive core is over the age of 30. And they have cap space, which is just as important if we're talking about cap demands and the things that came up last week when it came to Alexander Nikishin and the thought that it is an $8 million ask. And again, the salary cap folks out there who clearly know the salary cap better than Eric Tulsky and the Carolina Hurricanes, and I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but this is the time to talk about it.
Toronto, by the way, does not have cap space.
Well, they would have to make a move with them.
Yes,
it would be a player for player.
Currently in line to be $2.7 million over the salary cap
player
right
for
now.
Player. Or a third party.
That'd be expensive because you got to sign that new deal for Nikishin. That's going to be that's looking like about an $8 million price tag per year, so they say, but to be determined.
Yeah, cap space in terms of players, not in terms of extra money.
If they wanted to send Matthew Nyes the other way, I don't think the Hurricanes would complain about that.
They were shopping him last year.
I don't think they complain one bit. There was a rumored trade to Montreal involving Matthew Nyes that only didn't go through because the paperwork was filed too late. So he looked that would be about even in terms of salaries matching because on his deal that he eventually did sign, he makes $7.75 million a year. Look, no, I don't think anyone around here would be complaining if that was the return.
The other team out there is Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh should kick the tires as they get older and they could use a hand like Alexander Nikishin. I love the idea of rumors and Nikishin at this point because it's all we have to go on. Outside of the article that was written last week, where with the Russian media reporter, the hockey reporter, and a handful of notes, we're sitting. We're all sitting. This is not Marty Nature's territory. This is not about being a disgruntled Carolina Hurricane. This is about a Carolina Hurricane, or maybe not Carolina Hurricane because he's not signed, on his worth and what he finds his worth to be. His dad's not out talking in the media. His family's not out talking, not saying things to rando sources. People aren't texting his pregnant significant other to say, hey, what do you want to do? It's really just kind of like can we make the numbers work? And right now the Canes don't want to pay the asking price. That's very clear. Otherwise, it would have been paid a month ago. And we'll see. But this is the last month without hockey. We start training camp next month. Next month. It's easy to say that out loud. Yeah, Pittsburgh, another one of those other teams that wants to get involved. Los Angeles would have to make some cap things work. Again, I love the rumors. The idea of rumors is fantastic. In some of these cases, you'd have to swap some players or get another team involved. Some of these cases, they could just do stuff outright. And then what are you willing to part with? And is it worth the part? That's Max. I'm Paul. Next up here on 99.9 The Fan. Back in the chairs on an August morning. Yes, indeed. A Monday morning. It's game week for the Carolina Panthers. If you can believe that, it's game week. They play the Arizona Cardinals. It's Hall of Fame week, so that's what makes it a little bit more special. If you haven't seen the billboards around town for Luke Kuechly's hamburger choice, you should, because apparently he just kind of likes a regular hamburger. I'm like, Luke Kuechly's hamburger choice. And it's like, yeah, like a burger with some onions and mustard and ketchup and lettuce and tomato. I'm like, so you like a hamburger that is served everywhere. And I do enjoy the hamburgers that are served by the place that he is promoting. There's no doubt about that. But I don't want to hand out the milk for free and the cow and the butter and the yogurt. I don't want to give all that away. But it is Hall of Fame week. That game will be on our family station, Mix 101.5, on Thursday night. Yeah, actual football. I don't even know is there a number set already? I'm going to have to look because sometimes they set a number for a preseason game.
How can you handicap that?
And these games are always so low.
Who on earth is going to be playing in that game?
Here it is. Here's the number.
How do you handicap Haynes King versus whoever the backup quarterback for the Cardinals is? I don't even know.
Carson Beck.
Really?
That's Carson Beck.
That's an opportunity for him.
Panthers are favored minus 120 on the money line. The over-under is 35.5. 35.5 on that one. So Panthers are favored in the first preseason game. That's how you handicap it. You just flip a coin and see who's putting some money down. But it is out there. It is out there and it's back. And Panthers will have a number of questions. Dennis Cox is going to join us at 9:30. He was at FanFest over the weekend, in which Dave Canales talked about a lot of things following the kind of live practice, live autograph session. Also going to figure out who the most popular player was out there who was signing things. I saw a lot of uniforms being passed around in the stands. You know, it looked like there was a very healthy supply of Sharpies for players. I think I saw Bryce Young sign the back of some little white kid. Like it was just wild. Like everything, just like, okay, cool, you know, whatever's going on. And they had, you know, some decent weather down there too. But one of the storylines that came out of it, and it was written via the official Panthers propaganda site at Panthers.com, talking about the receiving crew adapting to life without Chris Brazzell. And I'm like, did they actually have a life with Chris Brazzell? I mean, he went down in an early practice with, you know, a season-ending injury for him, which sucks. Hadn't even played in a game, and the Panthers had plans for him already. And I'm like, I don't know what life without a player who's never played in a game is. I'm just assuming it's like, okay, well, we'll just run with the other guys. And we know who's going to run with the other guys. But the interesting part about what was written within this article, and we'll ask Dennis about this too, was the idea that they really only talked to the guys that were going to play outside of Dave Canales. They talked with Jalen Coker about not having Brazzell out there. And that was it. Like, they didn't really talk to anybody else. It was Coker and Canales. And then they just listed all the other guys who happened to be in that room. You know, Bryson Tremaine, who Canales basically just said he's really smart. Like, you're smart. Okay, I get that. They talked about John Mechie, who within the building here was like, he's not going to make this team. He's not going to make this team. He drops passes. But they then talk about Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett, who he knows both of them. And the steadiness of David Moore. And then they throw in, oh, yeah, by the way, Xavier Legette. And Xavier Legette, Canales is saying all the right things. And admittedly, within the propaganda article, and I get it, state-run media, everybody does it now. NC State has state-run media. Carolina has state-run media. They have their own freaking podcast studios now. it says it's business as usual for X, and we have big plans for him. He's got big plans for himself, and he's been working hard at and again had a great offseason and carried it right into training camp. And I just go, I've heard this one before. This is the nursery rhyme that you were told when you go to bed at night to make you feel better. You had a rough day, you sit down in bed, and you open up the book, Hickory Dickory Dock. 3 blind mice, the cow jumped over the moon. Good night, Dave. Good night, Panthers. Good night, Xavier. Good night, Bryce. Whatever it is, we've heard this nursery rhyme many, many, many times. And at a certain point, you have to change the nursery rhyme. You have to change that story to help you get to bed. And at some point, this story is going to change. And at the end of the article, Jalen Coker, who has talked openly about every receiver in this room, basically just saying, everyone can make plays. I'm really excited to continue to work and just see how much this competition pushes us all. And prior to that, it says, whoever steps up. So we know that within that room and within that organization, they feel they only have 2. They have Tedero McMillan, the reigning offensive rookie of the year, and Jalen Coker, who they paid handsomely in the offseason. He's making serious money, and he earned it. And he played through injuries last year, too, and question marks about whether he could step up and ascend. But he's the only dude they talk to in the receiver room because he knows everybody and was, very outgoing in his praise. And Coker even said about Leggett, he's just special. His ability to catch the ball, his route running. He really is a one-of-a-kind athlete and player and a person, too, so I can't say enough good things about him, except the fact that everyone admitted he had a sophomore slump last season and has not lived up to that potential. And I hope that the business as usual for Leggett, according to Canales, is not business as usual. That if he walks in and is still telling the same nursery rhyme over and over again, that he's got big plans and he's been working hard at it and he's had a good offseason, I've heard and seen the end of this story, and it does not make me feel good when I go to bed at night. And I'm not sure it makes Panthers fans good at the same time. If you read through this article completely and didn't even read between the lines, you are thinking to yourself, Bryce Young needs more help. He needs more bodies to throw to, not just because a guy went to Stanford. I know a lot of dudes who went to really great schools who didn't exactly deserve to be there once they left. I do have 2 friends that went to Stanford. One of them went to school there as an athlete, was in the wedding at one of the Canadian women's hockey player teams. She's like a bridesmaid, introduced her and her husband. I have another friend who's literally a nuclear scientist. They're brilliant. Brilliant. But does that actually mean I can play in the NFL? He's smart. He's a really smart guy. He can play all the spots, and that's valuable. Great. He should be the starter then, without fail, because he's the smartest guy in the room. I get it. I get the narrative. I get what you're trying to say. And you want to make us all feel better at night when we go to sleep. You want Panthers fans to go to bed tonight, to go to bed Wednesday night ahead of the preseason game and go, yep, we're going to execute. Kenny Pickett's going to spread the ball around and take a couple of quarters, and Haynes King's going to come up there and take a couple of quarters. At least it's not Plummer anymore. I was kind of getting tired of watching him pad stats in the preseason. There's somebody else back there signal calling. And I hope it's not just running. I don't want to see run plays all the time. Let's open it up. Let's open it up and make everybody feel good about the nursery rhyme that we have been told over and over and over again. And maybe that's unfair pressure on Xavier Leggett, but that has to come with the territory now based on the track record. It's August. I'm excited about real things, about some good stuff. We haven't even addressed the baseball trade deadline, but I'm sure we will at some point.
Are we calling the Hall of Fame game a real thing?
It is.
It's real in the way that they will play.
It's a real thing. If there's a money line set on it, it's a real thing. If you can bet on it, it's a real thing. It has to be. That's how events are legitimized these days.
I guess
I can lay a dollar on it.
There's a dichotomy between real and exciting.
You can bet on Nathan's hot dog eating.
You can bet on the thousands of ping pong games
Correct.
in Russia, but
Correct.
doesn't mean I'm getting super hyped up for
It's
it.
still a contest, though.
It is good to see.
It counts.
It's good to see guys in Panthers uniforms putting on helmets and jerseys and running around on a football field, I guess.
You're telling me if Kenny Pickett goes down hurt, that's not real?
That's real for sure.
That's absolutely real.
But it's very real, and it's just like it really drives home the meaninglessness of the game. It's like, wow, Kenny Pickett just got hurt in the Hall of Fame game.
Well,
Why did that just happen?
Well, then why do we play why do we have the preseason then?
My question exactly.
Wow.
In all of sports for all of time. I understand you need to get up to game speed, but it's just not for me. It's never been for me.
Spring training. You tell me you don't like to go spring training baseball.
I've never been.
All exhibition games.
I'm just not a fan. Like at least as like a spectator, like I get it for the players, like getting up to game speed and getting back after a long off season. But in terms of like an attraction for fans,
sure,
it's just it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
Now it's
you and Rod Brindamore, man.
There's a little more excitement now, just because we're in the midst of the sports drought in the middle of the summer. But
Drought's over.
We're getting closer.
Drought's over. The faucet is dripping a little bit harder. It truly is.
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. The prize of the MLB trade deadline is on the move. Left-handed pitcher Tarek Skubal was traded from the Detroit Tigers to the reigning back-to-back champion Los Angeles Dodgers on Saturday night in exchange for 3 prospects. Skubal won the Cy Young Award in the American League in each of the past 2 seasons. A U.S. District Court judge granted a preliminary class-wide injunction on Friday night that ruled all high school class of 2022 athletes who exhausted their college eligibility this spring eligible for a 5th season in 2026-27. The NCAA is expected to appeal the injunction. It's game week for the Carolina Panthers. They will face off with the Arizona Cardinals at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio on Thursday night to kick off the NFL preseason. Stay tuned to 99.9 The Fan all week long for the latest updates out of Panthers training camp. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is our Panthers Playbook host and also part of the Drive with Tim Donnelly every afternoon, 3 to 6, Dennis Cox. Good morning, Dennis.
Morning.
So you were at Fan Fest over the weekend. Who signed the most autographs in Charlotte?
J.J. Jansen definitely had a lot of love. Chuba Hubbard, actually, I'd probably say signed probably the most autographs. He actually came out early and was walking around right where the media was able to stand right there on the field at Bank of America, and he was just signing autographs for probably a good solid 20, 25 minutes, I'd say.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, Dennis, how happy were the Carolina Panthers to be there, like in terms of mood?
Just the Panthers themselves, I would say they're probably like a good 8. You could tell talking to the guys because they don't have fans at training camp because they're the construction of the practice facility that's right next to Bank of America Stadium where they practice because they're working on their indoor facility that they're building right now. So they can't have fans at training camp. This is the 2nd straight season for that. So this is the first time they were actually able to get in front of fans since the playoff game against the Rams. You could tell there's a little bit more buzz and energy coming from the players, and even talking to a couple of them afterwards. We talked to Jalen Coker as well as Lee Hunter after practice, and you can tell there's an energy from those guys. You can see it on the field, how they were playing and just how they were interacting with each other. You can tell that there was a good crowd too. I will say talking to people who've been with the organization for a while, they said that was probably the most energized and upbeat fan fest that they've had since Cam Newton was the starting quarterback.
Well, that would make a little sense coming off a playoff appearance. Plus, they had fireworks and lasers. So,
Yes, they did. I missed the fireworks, though. We had to go talk to Dave Canales, so I heard the fireworks, but I didn't see them.
That's Dave's fault. He should have kept you guys out there. Said, hey, I know you guys want to watch fireworks, so let's sit out here on the field and watch fireworks. That's on him. That's on Coach. Dennis Cox joining us this morning here, next up here on 99.9 The Fan. So a lot of things came out of it. You mentioned you talked to Jalen Coker, and And Max and I were chatting that up a little bit here as we started the show. Jalen Cooker, the only receiver quoted in the Panthers propaganda article about their wide receiver room, he was saying all the kinds of glowing things. And I said, I keep hearing the same nursery rhyme about Xavier Legette that I've heard that's supposed to make me feel good at the end of the night, right? He's working hard. He did some good stuff in the offseason. He's a unique personality. He has goals. We have goals. This nursery rhyme's getting a little bit old for me, but you were there. Like, you've seen him do his things in pads and not in pads. So should we believe that the nursery rhyme's going to have a happy ending this time, Dennis?
I think you're fair, Paul, in believing or being cautiously optimistic when it comes to Xavier Legette. Because like you said, we've heard this last year. I remember even last year during training camp posting some videos at practices, and here's Legette making this great one-handed catch. And people are like, see, he's catching the ball with his hands now, and it didn't translate to the regular season. Something that definitely is true and definitely is noticeable. He said that he lost 12 pounds this offseason. You can see, I remember I told Tim Donnelly this after going to the first training camp practice. I said, he looks like he leaned out. He looks even quicker. And for a guy that's an explosive athlete, he looked even a little bit quicker. He's noticeably standing out in a good way. The question is, when the lights come on and it's actually game day, does it translate? And I think it's fair to be cautiously optimistic when it comes to Legette, because we felt the same way last year. Hey, big step up from a former first-round pick. We didn't quite see it. But I think also with Chris Brazzell not being available, he's done for the season with a torn LCL injury, the third-round pick out of Tennessee. It's the third wide receiver spot is his to take and his to own. And I think without that competition with Brazzell right there, I think he really can seize the opportunity and really truly be that number 3 target.
Dennis Cox, who was at Charlotte Fan Fest for the Carolina Panthers over the weekend, joining us here on Next Up here on 99.9 The Fan. Dennis, what also came out, obviously you talked about injuries with Brazzell, and we know with Nick Scorton's out for the season. Next man up, Dave Canales puts his hands on Princely Umanmielen and says, you have to be the guy now. And apparently he's impressing. Is this another one of those hopefully not Legette situations where it's like all the tools are there? Is the next step ready to be taken by Princely?
I think it is. It really is. And I think opportunity is really the thing for him, because we saw last year he just didn't quite get the snaps, at least the snaps that I thought that he deserved, especially as the season went along. You needed that speed edge rusher, and Ijero Evero, the defensive coordinator, can be, I'll say, stubborn in terms of his personnel groupings. Let's not forget last year that after Pat Jones went down, he played a former third-round pick in DJ Johnson, who was his guy, your guy, Paul, because he went to Oregon. But DJ Johnson was Ijero Evero's guy. And the Carolina Panthers, in order to get Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen on the field, they had to cut DJ Johnson. He played literally over 50% of the snaps in the game against New England, and then they had to cut him. They actually had to place him on waivers in order for Evero to, play the second and third round picks, the guys that we drafted. Evero has been hesitant to play young guys in the past. And I think now that Umanmielen, with Scorton no longer being there, yes, Pat Jones is back, but I think he can really put himself in a situation where as the season goes along, as we get to week 6, week 7, week 8, he could definitely be the starting edge rusher opposite of Jalen Phillips.
Did we all want to just kind of scratch our heads about this Carolina Panthers team a little bit here in 2026? The offseason signings, obviously, to bolster the defense are there. You have the injury issues on the offensive line. You're now seeing guys fall in training camp. And I say this because when the Panthers come rolling out, when the regular season starts here in a month and change, they have the NFL's third toughest schedule. It's what happens when you win a division title. It's just how it works out with the NFL, and you push out there. So everybody's trying to figure out exactly where this team's going to be. The over-unders at 7.5. And there are some people saying this team will regress, will step back. They may not win more than 4 or 5 games. Others, again, this is the crazy part about this roller coaster. We got to the other side of the roller coaster, the really fun part, the big drop, where you're like, well, no, this is a 10-win team. This is an 11-win team. Are we way too early on calling this, or is there like some genuine thought within that building that, no, we're going to keep this ascension moving from 3 years ago when we were a 2-win football club?
There definitely is belief in the building that they can definitely keep it ascending. I was talking to a couple people in the organization just kind of about the division as a whole. It's like, well, I mean, Tampa Bay doesn't seem like anyone actually wants to be there. Vita Vea wants out, their quarterback Baker Mayfield, and this whole contract thing. And then Atlanta, they don't seem to have any healthy quarterbacks. who knows with New Orleans. But, this is also a division last year that had 3 teams finish 8-9 and tied for first place. So people are, well, yeah, we can certainly win the division. But the roller coaster, Paul, that you mentioned, just look what they did last season. Pretty much for 11 straight games, win-loss, 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 win-loss. Like, they couldn't string together consistent wins or consistent winning stretches outside of, I think it was weeks 5, 6, and 7. Like, that's it. That's the only time. Otherwise, it was just win-loss, win-loss. So it's fair I would say, for lack of a better term, to be critical of what this team could potentially be, because last year they were still just an average team. They're still just 8-9. Even with the additions that they had this offseason, I was like, well, it's still an 8-9 football team. And there's still a lot of questions about the quarterback, who only threw for 200-plus yards in 4 regular season games last year. So, yeah, you can say, well, you can add all these pieces, but if you don't have a quarterback like Bryce Young that can consistently help you win games and perform at a quality level week in and week out, well, then, yeah, it's fair to say, well, this team was only going to win 6 or 7 games. And also, as well, you mentioned, Paul, with the strength of schedule that they have going into this season, theoretically the 3rd toughest based off last year's results. They could actually be a better team, but because of the tougher schedule, still finish 8-9.
Crazy enough. You lobbed me one right here at the end, and this will be the last one for you here. So you mentioned Bryce Young, obviously still starting quarterback, not extended at this point. The quarterback room has changed, though. It's no longer an Andy Dalton. It's no longer a Plummer. It's now a Kenny Pickett and a Haynes King. Is this a better quarterback room situated for this team than it was last year?
I'd say yes, for the simple fact that Andy Dalton didn't have the mobility that Bryce Young has. Bryce Young, actually, I think his best quality is when he actually throws on the run. I think that's actually his best thing, especially when he rolls out to his left. I think that's his best physical trait, in my opinion. And I think Kenny Pickett, with his mobility, I think is going to allow, if there is an injury, it's going to allow the offense to still kind of run the same. Whereas opposed to Andy Dalton was just the old statue standing back there in the pocket type deal. And then Haynes King, we all saw him play at Georgia Tech. He's going to be fun watching in this coming Thursday, I can tell you that. But I think the quarterback room is in a good spot. And also, let's be honest, 2 years ago when Bryce Young got benched for Andy Dalton, he doesn't have that threat now. Bryce Young doesn't have that threat. Even though Kenny Pickett's a former first-round pick himself, he's on his 15, Paul, I think is what he is. And then that counts the Browns, where he didn't even actually play even in a preseason game for the Browns because he got traded to Vegas last year. His career has just been all over the place. But to me, I think it is actually in a pretty good position right now as a whole.
Dennis Cox joining us live from the phone there on the Eastern Automotive Group hotline. He was a fan fest in Charlotte. Dennis, appreciate all the check-ins. You know, when you mentioned Andy Dalton standing there like a statue, you know the problem with being a statue is, right?
What's that?
When you don't move, you get pooped on.
That's true.
And that's not what the Carolina Panthers need. Appreciate you, Dennis. We'll see you a little bit later.
Anytime.
Dennis Cox, host of Panthers Playbook. They dropped some new content over the weekend. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Just search up 99.9 The Fan. Make sure after you find it, you like, subscribe, and then you watch.